Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Better Together, the podcast where we share the stories, the lessons, and the practical advice from founders and leaders to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Sean Sunsvold, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in business and in life, Kelly Sunsvold. Today's guest is James Black. Now, before we get into today's interview and topic, let me tell you a little bit about him because James is the kind of person who he doesn't really seem to have an off switch. He's the founder of GoMeetus, the company behind the first legally available cannabis gummy in Colombia, South America. He's also the founder of James Black Consulting, where he helps business owners build systems and processes that allow them to stop being the bottleneck in their own business. On top of that, James has spent years consulting with sales teams and helping organizations improve decision-making to help them create more effective sales processes. And lately, he's turned his focus towards helping founders and entrepreneurs overcome one of the biggest obstacles to growth: imposter syndrome. Now, if that all wasn't enough to make you tired, he's also the father of 8 kids. Just want to let that sit there for a moment. 8 kids, that'll keep a life busy. So today we're talking about what imposter syndrome really is, how it shows up in our business and our lives, and most importantly, what we can do to finally stop letting it hold us back. So James, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Hey, thank you guys. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this interview. Like our initial conversation, there was a lot of, fun and everything like that. So let's just start with this. So for anyone who's listening and they've maybe heard the term imposter syndrome, but
Yeah.
maybe not quite sure what it is, why don't you tell us what it means and define it for us?
Yeah. The imposter syndrome is simply that voice inside that we listen to that eventually, it starts off when we're young to protect us, and it's there to help, keep us safe from things. But what happens is eventually we give into that and it kind of takes over, and we don't realize that it hijacks our system, but it's that voice that keeps us small. It keeps you from doing things, taking risks, but all of a sudden it goes into more than that. It starts telling you you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. If they find out that you don't have the skills, and entrepreneurs definitely, most all of us have it. And, you go into just thinking, well, I just don't know why am I doing this? And it's all of those things that keep you from making money, keep you from that life that you deserve.
Yeah.
That's a really good explanation. I mean, it's things I think all of us as entrepreneurs go through, and I remember thinking that I had it when I was, like, in my leadership job, and it was like it just amplified when I went on my own as an entrepreneur. That imposter syndrome really can take hold of your brain power. It's crazy. Going back to the cannabis culture, you've been around cannabis cultivation since the mid 90s. What originally drew you to that world? How does it typically show up in entrepreneurs and business owners, that imposter syndrome?
Normally what I've seen in everybody that I talk to is it's so subtly that you don't even know that it's there. It's been happening for so long to most of us that we think it's just our subconscious, or sometimes the right voice inside that keeps you in check. And it's because so many times in the past it's that voice that keeps you from doing something that would hurt you. And especially when we're young, if you've gone through anything growing up that was traumatic or and those types of things, that's what keeps us safe. But it starts to come out in the entrepreneur as soon as you start to step out on your own. You take that first step out, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't know that world out there. What are you doing? Stop, stop, stop. You can't go out there. It's not safe. So it's probably the same voice that kept us in the cave, as cavemen as we were evolving. But now it keeps us in a proverbial cave. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think and it sneaks up too, right? It's not something where it's like you take that first step and it's like, okay, I think I got this. And the more that territory gets unfamiliar, right? That voice starts getting louder and louder and louder.
well, I see it. The more that your confidence is building, the more that voice wants to scream. Like what Kelly was saying in that leadership position, that's where it's the loudest. Right when you're about to make the biggest moves, it's like, what are you doing? And so it keeps most people from doing that thing. But that's it. That uncomfortable thing, that painful thing on the other side of that is everything that you're looking for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think, and you've had a long background doing a lot of different things. And I'm sure, whether it's, in this, you started as in car sales, right? You've done consulting, you've done a startup, you've been an entrepreneur. When did you start noticing that imposter syndrome in your own journey?
Oh my God. When I was a kid. I came from, a pretty rough background, and I don't need to go into it. But part of that imposter syndrome gets you to identify with all of those bad negative things that happen to you. So it tells you throughout your life, no, look at what you came from. Look at all this stuff. Look at all this bad stuff that happened to you. And so mine started very young. I didn't know that it was there. I didn't know mine was there until probably about 4 years ago, when my son Calvin, one day we were arguing, and I used to talk to him like that imposter voice talks to me.
Mm.
And at this point, mine is rude. And I don't know. He's just so much like me that it was like I was talking to a younger version of me, but I was being just brutal to him. And so in that moment, I said something pretty nasty. I don't even remember what I said, but he said, "Do you talk to yourself the way you talk to me?"
Ooh,
Mm,
And
wow.
guys, I couldn't say anything. And I said, well, finally I was like, no, I'm way worse to myself. And he
mm,
looked me dead in the eyes and he goes, "Your life must effing suck." And he slammed the door in my face.
mm.
And I wanted to, of course, go through the door and like Homer Simpson him, and but it stopped me like I've never been stopped in my life. And then for the
Yeah.
next 3 weeks I couldn't sleep, you know.
Wow. Wow. I mean, kids have a way. I mean, like you start seeing yourself in things and you want better for them. And then when they say something just so wise, but also slightly in an inappropriate way, but also like just wisdom beyond their years. It's just like, oh my gosh. So what are some signs of imposter syndrome back?
Yeah. The signs were pretty evident. But you know what? I was blind to it. It
Mm,
was the way my family was and how they were hurting for my attention and how I would just push and push and push. At some point, mine wasn't, "Well, you're not good enough." It only got to the point where it was not good enough when I needed to ask somebody for money. When I'm building anything, if I was in that mode, I get in this flow and I'm just like, and I'm loving life and I feel so great. But then what happens is you've got to turn those things that you create into revenue.
Mhm.
And so then it was all of a sudden, well, if I just build it a little bit more, oh, it's not done, it's not perfect yet. And oh, it's got to be perfect before I send it. And all of these different things were very evident. I mean, it was just all over my life, but I'm just walking. It was like, what do you mean? I don't see anything. You know, that day that Calvin said that, though, it was like somebody finally opened.
Yeah. Yeah, just, Kelly said it best. I think the mirror that kids hold up sometimes to us as parents, right? It helps us see not only like what we've done to ourselves and
Yeah.
in trying to
Well,
change those things.
hurt people.
Yeah.
And you don't, as a trauma-ridden adult that's never dealt with your emotion, never dealt with those traumas, never gone through any kind of therapy or anything, that's what you're gonna do. And I had no idea that's what I was doing. I thought that because they didn't have the life that I had, the physical abuse, the different certain things, I thought that their life was so much better than mine, but I was making their life the same, just in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I want to dive into that a little bit because, as we're being parents and we're doing work and we're doing these things, that voice that's constantly in our head, right? That and it's something you've mentioned before, that like imposter voice, right? And you've kind of talked about, what it sounds like a little bit, but diving in for you specifically, like what were some things that voice just says to you constantly that you've had to like work through?
Mine was that I would never, well, first, that I would always be found out, that I wasn't who I said I was, and that all of my experience, because I didn't go to school or because I didn't, get a college education, or I didn't do the same path as somebody else, wasn't credible, wasn't, something that was worth anything. That was the biggest one for me. But then also that I just wasn't worthy of the love of other people. And that came from moving around so much. I was always the new kid when I was young. I think I went to like 24 or 26 different schools in 12 years.
Wow.
And so I was literally sometimes 2 and 3 times a year the new kid. So I never got to settle into friends. I never got to settle into character. I never got to settle into myself. And so that just followed me and was just rancid in my life.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of a follow-up question to that, like what's the cost of listening to that voice for too long?
You guys, that's unbearable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a good question.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, but yeah,
No,
it's
no, no, no.
real. I
That's
mean,
100%
you listen to that
unbearable.
internal voice. Yeah, and it just becomes such a powerful voice. You have to almost have a battle in your head, and that's hard.
Well, the real cost is that I cost my family the life that they deserve this
Mm.
whole time. But you can change it at any time, and that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. The moment you make the decision, everything changes. But you have to choose it, and
Mhm.
not just say that you're gonna fucking do it. Excuse my language, but you have to really choose it.
Yeah.
And when you do, everything starts to change.
Yeah.
We have a saying that we've used in our family several times, and it we mostly use it around, like, relationships. But leadership and owning a business, a lot of it is relationships as well, so I think it applies here. But we say it's not over till it's over, and when it's over, you're dead. Like, you
That's right.
have an entire life up until the day you die to, block out that change that mindset on that imposter syndrome, fix that communication problem with your coworker, your spouse, your child. Like, you have the power inside you to shift that mindset. But sometimes it takes external help. Sometimes it takes medication. Sometimes it takes multiple conversations. It's not easy, but
The number
it's
one
not
thing it
over till
takes,
it's
though,
over.
is the choice. You have to choose. But
Yeah.
when you choose it, all of those other things start to become easier,
Yeah.
you know? And one of the things that I do is I send out a death warrant for the imposter syndrome now to everybody. I don't remember which book it. Oh yeah, it was Robert Augustus Masters. He talks about shadow work.
Mm.
That was a great series that he does, and he's a great doctor. But he says to name it, name that critic. He calls it the inner critic, and I just took it further to the imposter.
Mhm.
And when you name it, what happens is you taking and now giving yourself a line of separation from it. And so I named mine Jimmy. When I was a kid, my grandfather always called me Jimmy. He's the only person that I ever did. And it was such a term of endearment, which is weird because I loved it that he would call me that. But that was the part of me that then kept me under that criticism, kept because he was the one that always was his expectations of me were very, very high as well. And I just felt like I could never live up to anything. And so that voice became that to me. So but the day I put that name down on the piece of paper, I felt this relief like I had never felt.
Mm.
Mm.
And finally I could see that there was two parts of me. And that whole story of the two wolves inside, which one is going to win and the one
Mhm.
you feed most. Well, it's truth. We have both parts inside of us. And the imposter is not there as an enemy. That's what we don't realize. It's the part of us that was there to protect us. So it has this huge compassion for us.
Yeah.
But that compassion just got misguided into what it's become. And so all of that though is where it's in us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do we deal with it? And everybody goes to all of these outside sources, but it's not there. It's here.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that leads really, really nicely to my next question of like, we all, and I think for most of us who have fought the imposter syndrome or are still working, to fight it, right? We always think the goal is like, just stand in front of a mirror and be more confident, right? Like that's like, we just have to be a more confident person, right? That's sort of how it comes out. But you seem to go towards a different approach to this and how to work through imposter syndrome. Tell us about that.
Well, confidence is the end result of it, but you have to build evidence to silence the imposter. There's nothing you can say to it that's going to shut it up. You have to build the evidence and you have to do it on a daily basis. It's all of those silly little things that people tell you and all the advice that they gave you about, well, you got to, work out and exercise every day and you got to read a book every day and you got to meditate. And I used to think, what kind of hippie crap is all this? And as long as I work harder than everybody else, I'm going to make more money than them is what I always thought. But it's those things, and that's why I created the 5 daily non-negotiables. I didn't create them. I'm in the mentorship elite program with Dan Martell right now, and so he has 5 daily non-negotiables that he runs, and these are similar to his, just with a couple of differences. But for me, what got me through this last 5 years, and I realized it was the first one is writing down your goals. You got to write down your goals, and you review them 3 times a day, and 3 goals. That's all you need, but they have to be specific. They have to have a date. When do you want this specific thing by what day? Then you review those 3 times a day. The second one is you got to exercise for 45 minutes a day. You got to sweat for 45 minutes a day. I don't care if you just go for a walk with your dog. I don't care what you do. You can lift weight. I hate lifting weights. I hate going to the gym. My thing is a kettlebell. I'm good with a kettlebell, and then I can walk every couple of days when I don't want to do the kettlebell. And so that's what I found for me. The next one is meditating just 10 minutes a day. If you just stop and meditate and go inward for 10 minutes a day, by the end of a year, you've gone through 3,500 minutes of meditation. And
Wow.
that's a lot of self healing that you've done just at 10 minutes a day. And then read 10 pages of nonfiction every day. And if you do that, you read 18 books a year,
Mm.
and that's 18 books of just things that are there to build you. And then the last one, and this to me is the most important thing, it's the one good decision. You have to write down, record one good decision you make every day and rate it in difficulty 1 through 10. Because what happens is it's basic neuroscience. You guys, I just took Joe Dispenza's studies and all these other guys that are neuroscientists, and I'm like geeking out on it for a
Love
long
Joe
time now.
Dispenza.
Yeah. And so the one good decision app, you push it one time a day to make one good decision. Well, after 90 days of doing that, you've compounded 90 good decisions and you created new neural pathways in your brain that now your brain defaults to, and you're automatically looking for good and harder decisions to make in your life. And the only outcome that's possible from that is good. There's
Mhm.
nothing negative that can ever happen if you do it,
Yeah.
and so that was it. That I those 5 things, and so I made the app, the One Good Decision app, now that goes along with it, and I'm on a mission to get this to 1,000 people.
Wow. Wow. That's really cool. So you often like, and even in this, like in your five pieces, like honestly, gold. If you're listening to this, stop, write all these things down. You often talk about decision quality. So making those decisions every day and for 90 days. What's the relationship between imposter syndrome and decision making?
Well, just like I said, the more good decisions you make and the more difficulty those decisions have, the more you're showing yourself, which is showing the imposter, like, hey, I've got this. I've got this. You're there to protect me, but look, I have a record now to show you of good decisions. I'm doing this. I'm fine. I don't need you there to protect me anymore. And then all of a sudden, like I said, once you name it and you can separate it, now I can hear it. I can hear almost it's like a different tone in my head, even though I don't hear a tone. It's not like I hear audible voices, but I can tell when Jimmy's there. I know that it's Jimmy now. And I used to get really upset. I'm like, shut the F up, go back to your cage. And because I really am that passionately angry at imposter syndrome, but I've now learned to show it this loving kindness and say,
Mhm.
listen, I don't need you. And not that I don't need you like that. Thank you for being there. But I don't need your input. I've got this. I'm doing good. Look at all these decisions for how long I've been making them. And that's the direct correlation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, man, that's just such wisdom there. And definitely take it for anybody who's listening, take it with you because man, imposter syndrome is real. Right. So now understanding that, is it something that, we just one day get to kind of check off our list and say it's gone? Or is it something that we have to sort of learn to actively manage and to like kind of make it smaller every day?
Yeah, I actually, I put it out there, that I want to kill imposter syndrome, and that's a mission. That's one of those missions that's impossible. You can't kill. It's like you'd have to kill yourself, and so it's how do we silence this? And it's always an ongoing war. And what I've seen though, and like I said, I'm in Dan Martell's elite coaching, and he's really a real person, which I really love that about him. And he shared with us a thing where he was getting ready to release something, and he had even put it in check for a couple of months because he was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to lose this part or whatever. And I realized, I'm like, look, man, he's just open and honest about it. But and now at his level, he knows how to deal with it, and his systems in place are so he's got that. But it shows up anyway. It doesn't matter what level you're at. And I think the higher level that you go, the more it can show up and the louder it can get. But we're better at getting to the point of silencing that voice.
Mhm. So you mentioned the app. So kind of walk us through the app and how it helps people build confidence in action.
Yeah, it's really everything I do. I follow the mentality of KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. If I don't follow that, this is my own rule for me. It's not for anybody else. So it's not calling anybody else stupid, but I know myself. So it's just that, I wanted a tool for me. I don't like journaling. I don't know
Hmm.
what it is, but it's like leg day for me at the gym. I'm like, I'm just not going to go and do it. So I know that about myself. So I wanted to create something where, because that recording that one good decision a day is so critical. And I was like, you know what? If I had an app in my pocket, I could do it. But I want to make it the most simple thing. I don't want it to give any advice. I don't want it to be a program. I don't want it anything. Literally, you go there. I made one good decision. You push the button. It gives you 6 categories of your life, whether it's work or relationships or integrity or whatever it is, those 6. You push it, and then it gives you 1 through 10. How hard was it? You push that and you're done. And that's it. Then you have an insights tab. And so the free version gives you one good decision a day. If you get the pro version, it just unlocks, you can push it as many times as you want. But I'm giving, like I said, the pro version to 1,000 people because I want them to just have it. Because that's how much I know that this works.
Yeah.
Because then with the insights, though, it just shows you your tracking. How many good decisions have you made in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days? Are you trending up or are you trending down? Well, then it has an export part in the settings because everybody is using their AIs now. And so their AI knows them better than the therapist. So export this thing and put it into your AI and watch what it tells you
Mm.
about your decision quality, what you can do, how you can focus, what you can do to help that focus. Because these things know, because it's learning from everything. So by taking that, I'm giving people their own therapy analysis that they can do with whatever they want, but it's the key to unlocking their own personal things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And what was sort of the mentality behind one good decision, right? Because it's like, you know, you could easily make this be like, well, your goal is 5 good decisions a day, or your goal is 3 good decisions a day. What was the thought process behind starting with 1 versus a higher number?
The days that I was at rock, those are the days where one good decision feels impossible. And this isn't for the people that have got their shit together and their lives are going great and they're rock stars. I mean, I've talked to people that during this process that are like, I don't have an issue with that. I'm like, dude, go and get down on your knees and thank God right now that you don't deal with this. Because I don't talk to anybody anymore they're like, dude, I totally do that. I totally do that. I totally do that. 1 out of 300 people is like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, there are people out there, but it's just, I don't even know where to go with it. It's so big in my heart right now to just get this out there because everybody is dealing, you know?
Yeah, I love that heart that you have and the sensitivity to that and just helping people who, whether they're at rock bottom or whether they're just a little bit above rock bottom or they're just feeling just down, like that one good decision can be, a mindset shift. So what kind of transformation, like your goal is to have 1,000 people, you're giving this to 1,000 people. So what kind of transformation have you seen already from people who have fully committed to that process?
It's crazy, you guys. So in Colombia, I was down there for 2 months after that first conversation that we had. I was down there. I built my team down there, and I've been doing my own thing. I've been working out every morning. I get up at 4:30. I read, I meditate, and I've just been doing it. I don't ask anybody. I haven't pushed it on anybody at that point. And so I got this whole team. We got this gorgeous house. It's got this infinity pool and a jacuzzi. And so I'm out there doing my stuff, every day. And all of a sudden, one day we have this guy. His name is Gordo, and that means fatty, and in Spanish, and that's what they call him because he is a little chubby guy, but he's like the coolest dude. And the night before he's like, "What time do you work out?" I was like, probably about 5:30, and I didn't think anything of it, And then all of a sudden I looked up one morning and he's there. I was like, "¿Qué más? Like, what's up?" He's like, "No, I'm gonna exercise." I was like, right on, bro. And then after like another week, all of the guys, there's 3 guys in the house and then 3 women plus me. So there were 7 of us total. By the second week, everybody was outside in the morning.
Wow.
Everybody was working out. Everybody was meditating. I went and got the books. I got Think and Grow Rich for everybody. I got Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza for everybody. And they're all reading and they're all talking about it. And I'm just like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, one of their wives came up and she was going through this thing. I just posted this video. One night, she was on the phone and I got up at like midnight and I came out and she's like on a meeting, and I was like, I thought she had a customer in Australia. Came out an hour and a half later, it's like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, it's my boss. And you guys, I about lost everything in that moment. I was like, let me talk to your boss. I'm like, that's abuse. And I was like, I was going to lose it. So for the next week, I was just telling her, what are you doing? She's like, well, I want to be a coach, but I just don't feel ready and this and that. And I'm like, that's it. I've had it. I've had it with this shit. And so that was the moment. And so I told her, I was like, quit your job. And she quit her job because I knew her husband had enough money. He works with me. I know it's all good. You're fine. And plus they're so smart and they're so frugal. They're both accountants. They have it. And so I was like, it's not that. You're okay. So she quits her job. The next day, you guys, they get a call and his old boss calls and is like, we need you back. And he's like, nope. But my wife has started something and she's going to do it. And she got way more pay, everything happened. But then she called and she's looking at me. She's like, James, thank you. She's like, for 20 years, I've never had the ability to overcome this and to do it. And you're the one that gave that to me. And I'm like, I didn't do it. I was just the one that said it. You did it. And so in that moment, I was like, that's it. All of this that I do, that I'm dedicating my life to this.
Wow. Man, what a cool story, and seeing, and, I love hearing about transformations like that when people just like one day they're here, the next day they just make that decision and go forward and they see where their life can go, right? Like that light bulb moment is so amazing when you're coaching somebody or trying to help somebody and it's like they just see it. Right. And like it's exciting for both parties.
Oh, yeah. I think it's more so exciting for me, but
For sure. For sure. Well, as we start wrapping up here, for somebody who's listening today and maybe imposter syndrome is running their life, right? They've fought with it for years. What's the first thing they should do tomorrow if they want to change?
No, the first thing they should do is not wait till tomorrow. The first thing they should do is do it right now, in this very second. Stop and think, how long has it been running my life? And as soon as you stop that, and as soon as you say, you know what, I'm done. I don't care what it is that I've got to do. I'm going to get through this. You make that decision, and that is the moment of freedom. That is the moment it changes. But if you do it half-assed, if you do it half-heartedly, like you make a New Year's resolution, get out of here. Those are not the people I want to talk to. But there's so many people that are ready. And then you see the 5 daily non-negotiables. That's the system. When people say, what's the system, James? I'm like, that's it. And they're like, it's too simple. I'm like, you guys, simple doesn't mean easy. I'm like, yes, it's simple. Do it for 90 days. Consistency is not perfection. Practice makes progress. It doesn't perfect anything. But you're going to have days you travel. You're going to have days you're sick. You're going to have days you got IVF, whatever it is. Do as many of those 5 daily non-negotiables as you can every single day. And in 90 days, you cannot be the same person. It's physically impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's habit building, right? Like if you want to change your life, you got to start changing the underlying habits that have created the life where you're at right now, right? You've got to change it going forward if you want to be a different person.
I'd say create the evidence. We're creating evidence for ourselves to shut that imposter syndrome up because that's the only way you can do it. You got to serve it evidence like it's a courtroom. Lawyers are good at talking. You think your imposter syndrome is like a lawyer? It's the best one you ever heard. So the only way you can silence it is you got to serve it daily.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, James, for sharing this insight. Like, I know for me personally, like, I am not one of the people that have all their shit together, and imposter syndrome is very much evident. But it's something I'm learning to push back, and I definitely will be checking out your app. So, on that, how do people get in contact with you? How do people get to be one of those 1,000 people on the app?
Yep. It's super simple. I set it up. Just go to jamesblackconsulting.com. Just click either get the app or go to the newsletter. As soon as you put your email address into the newsletter, it'll send you a welcome email. It's got the 5 daily non-negotiables, the 5 laws, and the death warrant. You have to sign the death warrant. Print it off, put the name on it, and sign it. And as soon as you do, watch the relief you feel. But once you do that, then the app, I'll send you a second email as soon as you sign up for the newsletter. The second email will come out because I check it every day, and I send anybody that signs up for that newsletter the app for free for 90 days, and it starts your 90-day challenge.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, James. And yeah, we're definitely, I know we hit it off, in our conversations and I would love to meet your wife too. So thank you so much for your
Very
time
soon.
and look forward to more conversations with you.
You guys too. Thank you so much.